Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. Today I'm super excited about my guest, and I say that about all of my guests, but I am truly super excited about all the people that I have on this show. But today I'm bringing on Amy Birks, and Amy is a friend of mine, and we've met recently, and she's probably one of the most dynamic women that I've met in a very long time. Amy Birks can see the future. No, she doesn't use a crystal ball or some time travel device. Amy was born with the ability to see the biggest, brightest, most vibrant potential in everyone and everything that she encounters. And I can speak to that because the first time that Amy and I spoke, she saw things in me that I didn't. It kind of blew my mind a little. She combines that superpower with her GPS brain to help purpose-driven brands and founders create simple strategies and business models that let them scale their impact and revenue without sacrificing the things that matter to them, like time, profitability, or client experience. Author of the international bestseller, The Hustle-Free Business, Amy literally wrote the book on how to make marketing and business development fun, easy, and impactful. Often referred to as a master connector, Amy's 10 years of corporate strategy and project management experience, combined with nearly a decade helping mission-driven brands grow, make her the purposeful founder's secret weapon for scaling without sacrifice. I am super excited to introduce to you Amy Birks.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here with you, Iris. You did such a good job with that.
I'm so happy to be here with you. And I know I read your bio, but there's just so much to you that is so, when we first spoke, it was like you were my spirit animal. You just were able to read me and, see inside me. And I know I'm an open book, but a lot of people don't see what you saw. And it kind of, it was pretty cool. So.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I feel like, yes, the moment that we connected, I was like, oh my gosh, this woman, she gets it. We are like, this is my people. And whenever I meet somebody who I consider my people, I'm like, oh, thank goodness, there's more of us on the planet. It makes me so, so happy.
Yes, because we need more of us out there.
I agree.
So talk to me, tell me, but this is like your bragging spot. Like talk to me about what you do. I mean, I know what you do, but the audience doesn't know what you do and how you help people work less and make more.
Yeah, that's such a great way to summarize it. I'm really glad that you put it that way. And so, I think it's really interesting because business, like being in business, being an entrepreneur, being a CEO, I think we get really, as a human, having the entrepreneurial experience, or maybe an entrepreneur having the human experience, we get so much in our own way, and we tend to create these really complex business models, and we think that we need to do all of the things, or we look at the market out there and see what our competitors are doing or what other people are doing in the same field that we're doing. And especially as it relates to things like marketing and business development. And we think, oh, well, they're doing that, so we have to do that too. Or this expert said that you should be doing that, so I need to be doing that too. And then we pick up all of these tactics and strategies and frameworks and blueprints, and we start to try to shove ourselves in these boxes. And what's so interesting to me is that it takes, it takes an outside perspective, I think, to be able to see where we're creating drag that isn't necessary, and where, we've got ourselves hung up in these decisions that maybe aren't necessary. And so that's where I tend to come in with my clients, is as this kind of, I often call myself a Jiminy Cricket. Like, I sit on their shoulder and I'm able to see from the 50,000 foot view everything that's available to them as a business owner. And so, I'm sure you know this, and I know this, and probably your listeners know this if they're founders of companies too, that they, you can see, as the founder, you can see way out in the distance what it is that you want to create, that vision for where you're going, the goal, the big trajectory, all the way out there, you can see that. and you can see 3 feet in front of your face. And then anything beyond that is kind of like, I'm not sure what's there necessarily. I know there's stuff. And so what I'm able to do is really sit in that 50,000 foot view and see the whole field of play for my clients and help them figure out, okay, well, these are the obstacles that are coming up. These are the opportunities that are coming up. This is how we're going to prioritize those opportunities based on what we know is most important to you. This is how we're going to align your activities with your values so that the things that you're doing actually feel good and create less drag. And so it's really fun for me because, my people tend to come to me when they're in a place where they've grown their business to a point and they've created a measure of success that feels really amazing, but then they've hit a capacity ceiling and they're like, well, gosh, what we've got here is really amazing and we want to do more of it. We want to help more people. We want to make more money, but we're kind of out of bandwidth. And so how would we do that without having to sacrifice something that really matters, like our time or our profitability or the customer experience that we're creating or fun? And so I'm able to come in and help them rethink their business model, to simplify things, to free up more capacity, to remove the drag, to release the things that aren't working, to dial up the things that are, to find the points of leverage that are going to give them the most rocket fuel. And then away they go. And they're able to scale without having to sacrifice and to, like you said, do more with less, which to me is the thing. That's like the ultimate.
Yeah. And I love how you say create drag. That is like the perfect phrase for it, because we create this, when we first spoke, I was in my, I was like, oh my God, I have all these things that I can do and holy shit, I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start. And you were like, you don't have to do all the things. You literally talked me off the ledge because I was so panicking with all of the, what is that? Is that you or is that on my end? It's on your New York. It's because you're in New York. No,
yeah, there's all these people with their
ups.
Yeah, and very loud engines.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the thing. But anyway, and I remembered that it was I don't have to do all the things. I don't have to figure everything out right now.
Yeah.
I can kind of figure. And what was really funny about that was I was looking at all of my traditional marketing pieces and everything. And because the digital marketing is taking a little bit of a pivot, and we'll talk about that offline. But then I started doing this, and this is my new passion project. And it was just really weird the way that everything just kind of came to me. And you said to me in that freaking conversation, you were like, relax, because it's going to come to you. And I looked at my wife last night and I went, holy shit. And she was like, what? And I said, Amy, who I'm going to be, speaking to tomorrow, and because I talked to her about you, but she's an engineer. If she hasn't met you, she won't remember you. And she was like, okay. I said, this is what she said this was going to happen. And this happened. And it's this podcast, and so it was just a bit of a mind. It kind of blew my mind a lot, actually, not a little. It was. I
love that.
You saw it.
Yeah, I love that.
But you saw that it was going to be something.
Yeah, I love that you had that experience too. This where you were, a few weeks ago or a month ago, whenever it was that we first chatted. It's been a while. It's been a couple months, maybe.
A couple months, yeah.
Yeah, you were in that opportunity overwhelm place, and I've talked to it's such a thing. It is a real thing, and especially when there's tons of potential and it can be very overwhelming. And I think that. When you're a founder and you're the leader and you're the CEO, or if you have a small team or if you have a big team, it can be you got to figure out how to rein it in. And so I think that it's really wild when we get to that place where we're like, oh my gosh, there's so much potential. What do we do? And it's everywhere. And so it's really fun for me when I get to have conversations like that, like I had with you, where I'm able to say, it's amazing. It's all amazing. And guess what? You don't have to do all of it now. And we just figure out what the filter is for what's most important. And then we pick the trajectory and find the opportunities that are most aligned based on that. And anything else that's there because it might be a should, or it might even be a could, which is also a really kind of insidious thing that we don't even think about. Or the things where we're like, oh my gosh, but we're going to miss the opportunity if we don't do it now. A lot of that stuff can just get, we can put a pin in it and just align with what's most important, and then start moving in that trajectory. And when we're willing to trust that we can pick the right thing and that the opportunities are going to continue to come, then that's when it gets really exciting and fun, because then you can say, well, what is the most enjoyable thing that is also going to create revenue if that's the most important thing, or more time freedom if that's the most important thing, or both of those things if that's the most important thing, right? Then it gets really exciting and fun. So I love that that's the experience that you're having now, is that you were like, okay, I'm going to put this stuff aside. We're going to put a pin in these things. I'm going to make a list. We're going to circle back to it. It's not forever, because our human brain thinks that when we make a decision that's it. Like, I'm going to pick that. Like, I had this conversation with a client today and her team, and we were like trying to figure out the pricing for one offering. And I'm like, look, we're going to test this out, and we're going to try it with like 3 people. And then if it doesn't work, great, we're going to change it. It's not forever, but our brains, like these human brains that we bring along and carry along with us on this entrepreneurial journey, muck everything up and make it all really weird, hard, complex, confusing. And that, I think, is why it's so important to have an outside perspective, somebody who's not like spinning around and like, got all the other nonsense and stories in there that are mucking up the works. And so I love that is what you're experiencing now, is that you've got momentum and you've got, things are starting to move because you are releasing the drag and not saying, I have to do all the things right now, or we're never going to have any more of the things to do again. So good.
And it's been funny because I've been getting a bunch of clients.
So good.
And which has been, amazing. And it was so funny because the night before I did my first interview, I called my friend Michelle up because I was like, holy crap, I'm doing the podcast tomorrow and I don't have an outro. I have an intro. I don't have an outro. How am I going to end it? And it's like, I think that no matter what we do, we always end up making ourselves insane because there are so many options, right? And and we do all of the things, and we do want to do all of the things at once. We do want to figure everything out because, for me, I guess I'm type A, and it's like I need that structure, because if I don't have that structure, then I kind of like go all over the place. And my clients are complete opposite. No, that's I have one client who is type A, who our meetings are real fun. And I truly mean that. I mean, we like laugh at each other because, we're so type A, but, I look at it and I'm like, it doesn't, like, you literally gave me the permission to not be that, to be able to say, okay, relax. We don't have to figure every single thing out right now, which is huge. And so the clients that you work with, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the first person who came to you who's on the ledge. Like, what do you like say when, I mean, I know you said to me, but every person is different, right? So what is your thought process when you're talking, like when you see somebody like me, you're like,
yeah, that's such a great question. So I love that question. So, and I love that you felt like I was able to give you permission, because sometimes I think that's just what's necessary, is for somebody to point out another possibility that we hadn't seen for ourselves, and to say, and yes, you could do this. Like, that would be okay. That would also be okay. Because as a human, it's hard for us to really notice that sometimes because of all the stories that we carry with us. But, the thing that I think I bring to all of my clients and to any conversation like that is that, one of my highest values is simplicity, and it's what's that term? Is it like necessity is the mother of invention or something like that? I can't remember. But, my story is that I started my business 9 years ago and have been evolving and iterating ever since then, as we do. But it was about 4 years ago when I got divorced that I had like group programs, and I was doing this thing and had this workshop and this other offering and all this stuff that was going on all at the same time. Or like I'd start a thing and then I'd create a new offering 6 months later. And so there was a lot of change and flux happening in my business, and necessity is the power of invention, right? Is that the term? Anyway, 4 years ago, something like that, I got
I'm gonna have to
divorced.
Google it now.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Right. But I got divorced, and suddenly my daughter, who at the time was like 3, was just about 3, so 3.5 years ago, something like that, I was going to have to share her 50-50. Suddenly I was only going to have my kid in my life 50% of the time. And I was like, oh my God, wow, that is such an enormous game changer. And so at that moment I was like, okay, well, I am not willing to give up any more time with her. So like the time that she's with me absolutely has to matter. And so I have to be present with her, which means that my business is going to have to work harder with less of me. And I'm also now the primary breadwinner, like the sole breadwinner. So I got to figure out how to make this thing work so that the business can not only support a lifestyle, but also support my ability to be available to her. And so necessity being whatever, the power of whatever, the mother of invention, I said, okay, well, I have to simplify. Like that is it. I got to figure out how to make the money as in the easiest, simplest way possible without having a whole bunch of other things going on at the same time. And so that was the moment when I really committed to getting as lean as I could possibly get in terms of what I do and how I do it. And I haven't deviated since then. And I've only just like started, because I'm at capacity now for clients, I've only just started to say, okay, I'm going to deviate, but only a teeny bit so that I can scale myself, right? I'm like doing for myself what I do for my clients, but I'm not willing. Like I've gotten to the point where I have maybe I work 15 hours a week. I have a 6-figure business. I'm there for my kid whenever she's with me, I'm with her. I never work. I don't commit to anything other than spending time with her. And it's because I've got a hierarchy of my priorities. And so to answer your question, the things that I'm constantly looking for are what is most important? Like what's the most important value? And that's one of my favorite questions is what's most important right now? And so for me, the answer is constantly my daughter, like time with my daughter, because it's so limited and she's the most important thing in my life. And then how do we simplify in order to prioritize this thing that's the most important? Because then that becomes the filter for your decision making. And simplification and knowing what's most important makes it so much easier to make decisions. You then just say like, okay, well, is this thing that I'm about to commit to or that I'm about to decide to do, or of all these amazing opportunities and potentialities out there, is this thing that I'm about to do going to take me closer to or further away from the thing that I just said is most important, right? So if it's generating consistent revenue, if it's, scaling and having and working less, if it's, making sure that I'm home, that I'm only working from 10 to 2, 3 days a week, like whatever the thing is, right? Every decision gets filtered through, is it taking me closer to or further away from that? And then it all becomes so much easier because then we can say, well, if it's not going to get me to that, then I should probably rethink doing it or figure out another way to do it so that it can get me to that, because it's not always that cut and dry, but sometimes it is. And that's what I think is so interesting, is that we think that it's like, we tell ourselves, oh, Amy, it's not that easy. It's not that simple. It's way more complicated. And my story is different. And I say bullshit. I just say bullshit. Like, you're just not willing to look for the other potential and the opportunities. Like, there hasn't been a business owner that I've met who, if they are willing, like that's the thing, they have to, in order to work with me, they got to be willing to believe that it could be easier and like have a desire to make changes that will allow for that to be possible. But if they're more committed to the idea that it's just hard, then I'm not right for them, because they're not gonna be able to do it. Like, they're not gonna be able to find the way. So anyway, it's a very long way to answer your question, which, yes, hopefully that answers it.
No, that, and what I love about that is, so many people may want it. They may be thinking, I only want to work 15 hours a week, and they just don't see the way there. And the fact that not only did you see the way there, but you're doing it, you've done it. I think that's amazing, because I know so many people who are out there busting their asses, and they could probably be working less, but they wouldn't know that. Like, there's a couple of people that I want to introduce you to as soon as they get their kind of heads, where it needs to be, because right now they're kind of like blah, kind of like I was, except they're in a different spot than I am, and I probably have a lot more freedom than some people because, you know, I have my income and I also have, you know, my wife. And I'm very fortunate with that. So I can, you know, kind of, you know, screw around and, you know, do a podcast in between while I'm trying to figure out all the other things, and be supported while I'm doing it. You know, it was so funny because when I made up my mind to do it, I was like, okay, I'm doing it. So I called Sweetwater. I got my mic. I got my, you know, I was like, I'm doing it. And the next day I had all the tools. And, you know, like originally I wanted Kofi and I to co-host. And he said, no, you need to do this by yourself. And I was like, I don't want to do this by myself. And he said, you need to be doing this by yourself. And I'll produce it. And I was like, okay, you know, you get to a point where you just know when to not argue anymore.
Yeah.
And he knows me well. And I'm at the point now that, you know, I see somebody like you. And it is so inspiring. But you had a life before that. So what made you decide to become an entrepreneur? Like, what made you decide, like, I don't want corporate anymore. I don't want to, you know, do this.
Yeah, it's another great question. It's this basically the same, essentially the same story, but in a different package. So it's always been about time freedom for me. And I'd worked in corporate for, 10 years. I was doing strategy and project management on the enterprise level for a Fortune 25 bank before I started my business. And I had a great job. It was like an awesome job, coveted in the company. There were like 150,000 team members who would have killed to have the job that I had. I was a remote worker before it was a thing, before COVID. I had great boss, great team, cool projects to work on. I was making great money. And it wasn't enough. And the thing that just kept hanging me up was every time I had to fill out a request for time off. And I was like, PTO, what is that about? Oh my gosh. Why my time? Time is our most precious commodity. There is literally, I can't think of another thing in our lives that we have that is a resource that we have that we just can't ever get back. It's once the time, it's gone, right? Whatever you believe about how time passes, this is our human experience of time, is that, 23 minutes and 41, 42, 43 seconds have passed since we've been talking, and we're not going to get those minutes back. We're just not. And so every time I had to ask for my time to use it the way that I wanted to, or thinking about structuring my day and knowing that, well, I have to be available and near my computer from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m., all of that. I'm like, but why? And then I kept thinking about, the so-called American dream and how we're supposed to work and earn and prove our value and make our money and do all the things and work our asses off while our bodies are youthful and vital. And then when we're aging and it used to be 65 and now it's more maybe 75 for most of America these days. That's when we get to say, I'm going to slow down now and I'm going to stop working and I'm going to enjoy my life. What the F is that about? I can't get over it. All we have is right now. That's it. That's all we are promised, is this moment in time. And I want every single one of these moments to count as much as possible. And so I just couldn't make it make sense in my brain anymore. And then the other thing that kept coming up for me too was that I worked for this bank and it was fine. But I always knew, and my sense is that most of us who are entrepreneurial, or at least the people like us, right, who are kind of spiritual and high vibe, we purpose driven, right? We grow up feeling I'm here to do something. There's something more that I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to serve the world. I'm supposed to be a helper. I don't really know what that looks like. Sometimes we do. I never did until now, or until recently, the last 9 years or so. But I kept looking for jobs that were going to help me do that, but with an employer. And I kept rationalizing in that job, I'm working on these projects that are helping our retail team members. There's 150,000 of them. And, we're helping hundreds of thousands of customers in the world. And that's great. And so that's how I'm helping the world. And I was like, I can't justify it anymore. I'm not really doing the thing that I'm here to do. And so I made this crazy decision to leave the job and do this instead. And I've never looked back. I know that I could never be employed again. Like I'm totally not employable. I couldn't go back to having a job. It's like not a thing. I was talking to somebody recently at the gym, and the guy like works for Con Edison, is like the utility company out here. And it was on a Sunday, and he already had a case of the Mondays, and he was like, oh, work tomorrow, blah, blah. And I was like, I can't even relate to that anymore. I have like I can't, because my life is so freaking awesome. I love what I do. I absolutely love the people that I work with. They're all amazing. I get to do cool things like this and talk to amazing people like you. And, I live in a beautiful place. My bills are paid. My kid is happy. I'm happy. So that's why I left. That's why I became an entrepreneur, was because I wanted this life, and now I have it, and it's amazing. And I don't have to work that hard, and I get to show up and just be me every day. I get paid to be me. That's awesome.
And I think that's like the best part of it is the authenticity of it all, right? Is that we get to be our authentic selves. And it was so funny because, and I talk about this every freaking episode, because it always comes up. And I was told once, to be less me. I told you that, I think. And I was like, what the hell does that even mean?
Right.
Like, how do I do that? But I tried. I was like, okay, does that mean, well, you're very intense, and, it's the East Coast, and you're in Indiana, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I should probably be a little less. And I remember I tried to do it, and I was miserable.
I'm sure you were
miserable. And then when I realized that I was miserable, I was like, F it.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. I was just like, no, that is not, I cannot not be me, because I am me. Who the hell else am I going to be?
Right.
Right. It's like, and I started thinking about it, and I'm like, well, shit, I'm fun, and I'm funny, and I'm a hard worker, and I bust my ass for my clients, and I'm loyal. And I just started thinking about all these things. I'm like, why the hell wouldn't I want to be me?
Right.
And then it was like, you're an asshole, and I don't need you in my life. And thank you for telling me that. And this was a coach. This was a freaking coach.
Wild. It's so wild, the advice that people give, and that we listen to too, right? Like I take responsibility for the fact that in my early days in business, I had a coach tell me that I can't be friends with my clients. And I was like, my brain was like,
my God.
What? I can't be friends with my clients? And I was like, okay, things because you've done the thing that I want to do, and I haven't done it yet. So I'm going to listen to you. And then it took me like, I don't know, 2-3 years maybe to unwrite that story and to go, wait a minute, that was bullshit. My clients are my best friends. I love these people. Yes. I would like walk to the ends of the earth with and for them. Like, that's insane. Of course you can be friends with your clients. I would only do business with people that I want to be friends with. Only.
Exactly. Because here's the thing. They're not going to work with you if they don't know, like, and trust you. Right. You're not going to work with them if you don't know, like, and trust them, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's a two-way street. Everyone's like, well, I'll work with you if I know, like, and trust you. Well, guess what? I'm vetting you also. I'm not just going to work with, it's like, I remember I had somebody slide my DMs being like, I've been watching your videos. I really want to work with you. And I was like, well, hey, that's great. Let's, hop on a call. He's like, what do you mean? I want to hire you now. I'm like, I appreciate that. I truly appreciate that. And I'm flattered. But we need to have a conversation, because I had a feeling.
Yeah.
And so we had a conversation, and it was like not going to be a good fit, because the first thing was, well, it was about price. And I'm like, if you're going to commoditize, I'm not commoditizing what I do, because as soon as you commoditize it, it loses the value.
Right.
It's about value, not price. And so, and I knew, but what I find really interesting is that, we get to a point with our clients, and they are friends. They come to you for a problem. I have a client now who's been at my house, 3 times a week. I'm helping her with other stuff, not just, the stuff that she's paying me for, but I'm also kind of helping her get, fit into her role.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that as a friend. I'm not charging her for my time for that. It's like she's new in it. And I'm getting paid in other ways. So to me, it's not always about that. But I was told not too long ago that, you just can't be, friends with all your clients. And I was like, that's the only way. Well, then you're never going to
Yeah.
scale. Well, then I'm not going to scale the way that, and it's like, that's bullshit.
It's nonsense. It's all nonsense.
It is
It's all
nonsense.
nonsense.
And
It's all nonsense.
and
Like, to me, it's always about relationships. Like, that's what it's always, always, always about. And creating connection and authenticity. Like, that's, you mentioned that before too. And I think that
Right.
that is where real potential for scaling comes from, is because of what you said, right? Like, no, like trust, no love, trust. We want to do business with people that we care about and who we resonate with and who we feel like know us and really see us. People want to be seen. Like, that's important. And we want to feel connected. And so, I have clients who have big audiences and big communities, and the drum that I constantly am beating is, okay, great. And how are we going to keep connecting with those people so that they feel cared about and loved and seen? And how do we go even deeper with them? Let's not go wide and like get a million more people in the community. Let's go deeper with the people who have already said that they like you and that
Yes.
they're interested. How do we like capture more with these folks and help them grow and get what they need in life and in business? And yeah, I think it's fascinating, the kind of advice that floats around out there. And I'm such a non-traditionalist when it comes to stuff like this. And I think that it's amazing because my clients get amazing results. Like, I had a client who had created as much revenue in the first 2 months of the year working with me as she had made the entire previous year, right? Like, I've got a client who I helped build his business from like a brand pivot from 0 to 7 figures in 11 months. Like, I've got all these my clients are constantly getting amazing results, better profitability, working less, like all of these things. And it's because they're willing to hear me when I say, what if we didn't do like invest in Facebook ads at all this year? What if we just didn't do that? Like, what if you worked a little bit less? Like, what if we repurposed all of these things? What if we went deep instead of wide? Like, I wonder what would happen, like, how could we be more connected, be more authentic, you be more you, align the activities with your values so that you can enjoy doing them, right? Like, that I think is really, really powerful, really, really powerful. And it doesn't resonate with everybody. Like, some people are like, what are you talking about? Don't be on social media. That's crazy. And then other people are like, you mean I could not be on social media and my business would still grow? What? Like,
you're like
permission, right?
like,
yes. Yeah, me, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't have any interest anymore. I just don't. And it was a really edgy and risky decision to make, because the beginning of my business, that was how all of my business came, was through Facebook but building relationships, like not cold traffic or anything like that. Really, it was about like being in the communities where my people are and adding value and becoming friends and then doing business with them. But I'm not interested in that anymore. And so I look for new ways now that are more old school. And again, it's just all about connection and relationships, because I think that's the most powerful form of leverage that we have. And I'm all about finding leverage. This GPS brain of mine, somebody tells me what they want to create, where they want to go, and a map formulates in my brain, and I see all the easy, most effective, efficient, and fun ways to get to the destination. And it's always like, let's just find the leverage and like put some rocket fuel behind this thing and go. And relationships are always the most powerful way to do that.
And when you're your authentic self, you bring your people to you.
Totally.
Right? Because if you're, if you're inauthentic, then you're not attracting the right people. You're attracting the wrong people. And that was one of the things that, that I found, was that as soon as I became me, or I, allowed myself to be 100% me, all of my peeps are, my tribe has expanded so much, not like gigantically, because I don't want it gigantic, but the people that are in my tribe right now it's perfect. And whoever else comes in, it's going to be because, there are people, and it's so freeing, I think. So you don't miss corporate, so I'm not even going to ask that question. Because I know that you're like,
I don't miss corporate at all. No.
I mean, neither do I. And Kofi and I had this conversation, and he was like, Not at all. The only thing that I ever missed was the being around people.
Right. I miss my girlfriend, Megan. She was like my work wife. We
Right.
talk, we just like text each other every now and then, but she's my favorite. My old boss is having a team, things like that. But I still get so much of that even now working with my clients. So no, I don't miss any of it. And I think it's funny too, because some people might, stay in jobs because they feel like there's security there being employed. And I keep saying this week and last week, I've said this several times, that I feel like I would bet on me 1,000 times over more than I would bet on a company keeping me or like creating security. Like it's me. Like I'm going to bet on myself and my ability to create and create and create and create and create, and to do it in exponential ways and with exponentially more value than I could ever be promised or risk losing, because I am just a number in a company and other, like if it's just me, like I can do what I can create. Like I know that I can, and I always do. And so I think that I am my best strategy 100% of the time. And I have said that I haven't said that in a long time, but I used to say it a lot. And so, yeah, so I think that idea that there's like security in a job is also a big, there's like a smokescreen around that we're not really willing to look at because we get scared. Right. And it's a risky endeavor to be like, it takes a lot of courage to be an entrepreneur, a lot. And to stay, like to be doing this as long as you and I have, that it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
It does. And it is scary. Like, in the beginning, it's like, oh shit, that net's not there anymore. Right.
Right.
But we create our own net. And, which, for people, listening who are thinking of becoming, an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs, believe in yourself and bet on yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, that's all you have, because there is no such thing as job security. I'm sorry. I hate to say that, but you just don't know. I mean, we have, we're going to be looking at a recession soon, right? And, with inflation and everything going on, there's going to be layoffs, and I mean, it sucks, and not to scare anybody, but it's true. So if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, what advice do you have and I will say it is necessity is the mother of invention.
Thank you. Good, great. Yes, necessity is the mother of invention. Excellent. I was mostly on target there.
But
yes. So, I think if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, I think what you just said is right on, right? Like trust yourself and know that you inherently have value. And so be curious about how you might take the value of you and turn it into something that somebody else can use in a different way. I think that also know that your mind is gonna want to get in the way, and your mind is gonna want to make it really complex and difficult. And that if you can carry with you this question of how can this be really easy? Well, that I think is a really powerful question to ask when you're starting out. Like, how can this be really easy? Because it can be. And borrow my belief, if you don't believe it or if your mind won't let you believe it, that it really can be. It can be super simple. It can be super easy. It doesn't have to be that hard. It's just that you are always going to be the thing that's going to get in your way the most. And that when you can trust that and know, right, that if it's you, like if you're the thing that's always going to get in your way the most, that if you can just trust and know that I'm going to figure it out, I'm smart, I can figure this out, then you will. Then you just will. And that if you don't, it's because you've given up on yourself. And that is like 100% true, like 100% of the time.
No, I agree. And I think that to have an entrepreneurial spirit is, not everybody has it. There are people who are worker bees who want to just, get up, go to work 8 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever it is, have their lunch hour, whatever, their vacation. Because they can't see past it. They're just like, and for me, I always knew that, like you said, we were meant for something else. But for me, I started getting to the point that it's like, I'm sitting here busting my ass for you, making you a shit ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
And what am I getting? I was in a toxic workplace. And I was making them a lot of money. And I was like, why aren't I doing this for myself?
Right.
And then I actually lost that job. So I was like, do I collect unemployment? That's not me.
Right.
That's not, to sit home and collect a check and do nothing all week. I would like lose my mind. There was like no way. So one of my clients from that business called me up and said, hey, we're doing the commercial shoot that you set up. Let's talk. And then he and I formed Gasstovecreative. And this was like 8 years ago. We're not partners anymore because he, we kind of grew apart. I wanted to go one way, he wanted to go another, and it's great. I mean, we still talk. I mean, we probably talk, 2 times a week. He's a great guy, but that wasn't my vision. And everything's always been in my name, and I was like, I'm just gonna. I need to do something different with this, and I did, and that was scary because that was a safety net for me, having the partner. Who I can sit there and brainstorm with. But guess what? I have like all these other people now that I brainstorm with that are in line with me and my values.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different ball game. And so it's been very enlightening for me to be able to say, you know what? You do know your shit. You have that, people get imposter syndrome, right? Everyone.
Totally.
You doubt yourself. You're like, oh my God, can I do this? And it's like, yeah, you can do this. Not only can you do this, you kick ass at this. You're not just okay at this, you're the shit. And it's such a good feeling because that imposter syndrome, it sneaks in. It's like this little saboteur that, gets into your head that makes you go, wow, am I really good at this?
Right.
And then you see the results, and then you have your clients affirming that, yeah, you do. And then you have the self-affirmation. And I haven't felt that in, I don't even know how long now.
Yeah.
But it used to creep up, and that screws with you. Right? Because it makes you go,
it really does.
Wait a minute, you almost like freeze.
Yeah, your mind is always going to be the thing that's going to be most in the way of success, results, all the things. And that I think is why, mastering your mind is so critically important if you're going to go on an entrepreneurial journey, because otherwise these types of things are going to happen. You're going to question your value. You're not going to know how much to charge. You're not going to be able to get to a yes when you're in a business development conversation because you're not going to be confident, like all of those things are going to get in the way. And so I will also say that the journey of like this entrepreneurial journey for me over the last 9 years has been the thing that has accelerated my personal growth more than just about anything else, like maybe becoming a mother too, right? But like that has been so instrumental in me really learning my value and being able to say, I'm really fucking good at what I do. Like, I know what I'm talking about. My clients get results, know, and it was harder to see that when I worked for someone else for whatever reason. It just was. And it took this journey to really help me solidify that and really know that, gosh, I have a lot to offer. I'm really, really valuable. And to be able to see that for myself. So, if you're already there, then that's amazing. You're one step ahead and that's awesome. But your mind is always going to be the thing that's going to get in the way the most when it comes to the path of entrepreneurial, whatever, the journey. Yeah.
I remember I used to like not charge a lot of money. And we got to pause this for a second.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So go ahead, because you were.
Was I? I thought you were. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Okay, so
whatever.
Full disclosure, my landscaping company showed up, and I was like, "What the hell are they doing here? Because they're not supposed to be here." So it kind of threw us. But we were talking about the entrepreneurial spirit and how our own minds get in our way.
Yeah.
And now I have everybody coming in here saying hello.
We do.
The whole whole gang is here.
Right.
And people who are listening to this, there's like absolute chaos.
Right. Dogs and things and
all the things.
Landscapers. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that when you allow those things to get in your head, you're doing yourself a disservice. And
Totally.
and not that it's not that it's not going to happen, but when it happens, and you were like, well, you're ahead of it. What helped me was mindfulness.
Yeah.
And it was a big journey for me, because I was in my head about a lot of things. COVID hit, I had to make a pivot, so many different things changed. And that was like a big thing for me. It was like, okay, I need to be present. I need to be present now.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to, all of this imposter crap needs to go away, because like you said, you believe in yourself, you're good at what you do. Your clients see results. And I think that's the number one thing. If your clients see results, that's everything.
Yeah.
That's
it. It's really exciting when that, like, I love to, like, revenue is the number that I'm constantly looking at with clients. We look at profitability too, because profit is like the real number that really matters, but revenue is easier to track. Like, it tends to be easier to track. And so I love to play with revenue, because to me, it's this really amazing measure of impact. And so being able to watch, like, I have a client that I've been working with for a couple months, and we were trying to double his revenue this year. And we've already matched what he made last year by now. Like, he's already there, which is amazing. And it was a month before the 6-month mark. And we're on target to, it's like, I would be really surprised if we didn't probably triple his revenue this year. Like, it's just amazing. And it's really, really fun when that happens, because the reason that he wants to do it is something really exciting, right? And he also wants to be working less, right? And we're succeeding at that. We're bringing on team, we're doing all these things, but he has a business partner that he's wanted to bring back in to the business, who had the same, like, but I need job security sort of thing. And so we've been trying to create the consistency in their revenue so that he could feel more comfortable coming back to support his own family. Wow. And that's starting to happen. Like, the wheels are in motion, and this guy's going to come back. And so it's super exciting that, like, the number's great, but it's like what the number means. That's so awesome to me. So I love seeing that kind of stuff happen. And it just, like, it makes me so happy when the results are there. And, like, I had a client, we had our most successful launch yet, and we made a risky decision to do it just once instead of twice. Typically we do it twice a year. It's the most lucrative thing that we do in her business. We decided to do it once, super successful and way more profitable than in years past. And it was way easier for her to execute than it ever has been in the past. And so, like, when all those things start to align, I get really, really, really psyched, really psyched.
Well, and your clients are probably like, woohoo, because, you allow them to do this, right? They hire you for a reason, and you get them results. I think that's awesome that this guy is about to, probably hit triple, which is way more than, he thought he was going to. His partner can come back with job security, and it's all because of your help.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And I have to say, yeah, they're like, my clients are so stinking smart. Like, they are such smart business people, and they're so good at what they do, and the things that, like, the service that they provide to the world is amazing, and something that I can really get behind. And so it makes my job so much easier, because I just show up and they have all these great ideas, and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Or, like, yes, let's do it. And then let's add this, and we'll dial it up a little bit. And that's what's going to help us get to 3X, like, or I can say, let's clear away some of this stuff, and we're just going to do this. And that's going to be the rocket fuel that we need. That's going to, like, you only need to get 5 retainer clients this year, and then you're at 500,000. Let's do that. Right. Like, and then they're like, what? Oh my God, it can be that easy. And I'm like, it can be that easy. Let's just focus there and not on anything else. Let's just do that, So that, like, they're so smart already, and it just makes my job easier and more enjoyable, so much more fun. I just have so much fun working with these super smart, really wildly successful people. It just makes life fun,
And you can tell you enjoy it. I mean, you can
I
see
do.
that you enjoy
I
it.
love what I do.
And that's the beauty of it, right? Is, if you, what's the saying? If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because this is for, people who are thinking of becoming entrepreneurs and seasoned entrepreneurs, and you are a seasoned entrepreneur. What are some of the obstacles that you overcame? Like because there are probably, people listening that, are having some kind of a struggle, because we all have struggles, right? We all, we hit this like place of Shangri-La and we're doing great and everything's great. But then another struggle is going to come up. Another obstacle comes up that we need to overcome. So what roadblocks have you hit and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, such a good question. So like around the time that I had my divorce, my business almost came undone. And it was because I was so, my mind, right? Like I was so overwrought. It was a really stressful, awful time. And it made it very, very difficult for me to focus on, so I'll back up. My best friend, Kelly, Sheets, is brilliant. She's like just one of the coolest people you'll ever meet. And she was in Bali, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And she got this divine download that said, who you are being above all else determines your result. Who you are being above all else determines your result. And so I carry that phrase with me. And I think it's really relevant here. And also to the question about like what, a new entrepreneur and or a seasoned entrepreneur should know, right? Like, is that when, like, there's a million things that we could be doing. There's like all these activities and stuff that we could do. And that's constantly what we're talking about, especially in our country. Like that's a big thing. But it's how we show up in the world and who we be in the world and how we resonate energetically in the world that creates the results that we want. And it doesn't matter how much we do, it's how we show up. So when your coach said, don't be you, and you were like, what? And my coach said, you can't be friends with your clients. And I was like, what? And then I didn't get results and you didn't get results.
Right.
And it was when we like let that stuff go and allowed ourselves to be ourselves and to show up in the, energetic vibration of, wow, I love what I do and I love to serve and life is awesome and I am not afraid. Like I trust that I am taken care of no matter what happens. That is when things start to really open up. And so for me, I was in a place of extreme fear and discomfort. And I was like feeling all this pressure, the weight of the world on my shoulders. I got to support me and my daughter and it's only me and I don't have a safety net. And what am I going to do? And oh my God. Right. And my business started to come apart because of that, because I was so like, oh, I have to control it all. I have to do all the things. And the reality is that like, and I think that the last couple of years through COVID have brought this to all of our attention in a very intense way, that we're not in control of anything ever. We're just not in control of anything ever. And that all we have is this moment, right? We talked about that before, but that if we're not, right, if I can't control it all anyway, then I have to find a way to surrender and to trust that I'm going to always be okay, even when it seems bleak and especially when it seems like all is lost or it's all fucked or it's all coming apart or, oh my God, those are the moments when we're really tested to be able to say, okay, but right here, right now, where I am in my home. The power's on, right? I have food in the fridge, right? And even if none of those things are true, right? I'm still breathing. I can take a breath in. I read a great book called Serve to Be Great? I think, and I don't even remember any of the rest of the book, except for the kind of the introduction where he taught the author was in the army and he like committed a crime and then he was thrown in the brig and he was in the brig for like, I don't know, 4 years, 6 years, something like that. And which is like 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. And he found Zen Buddhism while he was there and was like, did this experiment. He's like, if I can decide that I can be okay, like I can be blissfully happy and at peace in this environment, in the brig, solitary confinement, 23 hours a day, 7 days a week for 4 years, then I can be happy anywhere. And so I think that like really has stuck with me too. Like this idea that I am always okay, no matter what. I am always okay. I am always provided for. And that the more that I can show up as me as I can possibly be, as a vibrant, loving, service-oriented being, as somebody who is present with the people that I'm with, who's present with myself as much as I humanly can be, then magic happens. The things that I need appear. And it's not this woo-woo bullshit. It's just like, it's for real. Like it actually occurs.
It is 100%.
It actually occurs. Yeah. And that when I start to try to manipulate things or like figure out, I gotta figure this out, or I have to have that, like, and I'm a strategist. Like I'm a strategist. And the more that I strategize, the less effective I am. And so when I strategize with my clients, I try to do it in a very like specific, values aligned and kind of loose way. Like, let's have room for magic to also appear. Like, let's know that that is also working with us. So I don't even remember what your question was, but I think that no obstacles. So like when you're right. So when we're afraid, which is a thing, like it happens, we make big decisions, we make big investments. We have, somebody gets sick in our family. Oh shit, the mortgage is due and we can't pay the bill. Like whatever the things are, right? Like a recession, the pandemic, like, oh my gosh, right? We've all got stuff that's come up, especially in the last couple of years. And I think it's when we're afraid that we have the biggest opportunity to pause, get present and say, I'm okay. Like I gotta bring my vibe up. I'm going to be all right. I am always okay. And how can I just show up and be here and serve and not be afraid? Like, let me just try to ride out this discomfort and know that I'm all right.
Right.
Yeah.
See, and for me, it was weird because with I have this long-term COVID condition. And when it happened, if we didn't catch in time, I would have died, which is, I say those words and I never had that near-death experience that everybody says that they have when, they're about to possibly die. What I had was an awakening when I was told that, everything is healing and I'm going to be okay. And, I have to get checked every year, whatever, and that made me go, holy shit. It was like something just clicked. It was in March. Mm-hmm. And that was when, I took hold of gas stove again. That was when, 3 weeks later, I'm talking about doing this podcast. Everything, it was just like these, like the I don't know, the floodgates opened. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, holy shit, we have all this time. Now we can do stuff. And it's like this, oh God, it's such a good feeling. And like you said, we're breathing. We have food in the fridge. Mm-hmm. We are taken care of. Regardless what happens in life, it always ends up okay. And I'm sure there are people out there listening going, fuck you. No, it doesn't. Because, not everything has been, okay for me. But if you don't fight it, if you just let it happen, it happens. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of magic, right? It is kind of magic when it works. So, yeah.
And it's all about perspective. I think that's the thing, is that what it comes down to, is that because there are like we all have, like, my life I've been really blessed, and I've had a lot of shit that I've had to deal with in my life too, like a lot of shitty stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm not gonna, I'm not here to say that everybody can have the same kind of perspective that I have. And I'm also not here to say that life is all like roses and sunshine and rainbows. Like it's not. Like, the hard stuff happens, and it's all a matter of how we relate to our experiences. And I wish that everybody had the opportunities that I have had to be, to like have that illumination for myself that, wow, it's all about how I see it, because I could see it this way or I could see it this way, and it's all my decision about that. And then how I see it determines what my next results are, because how I'm seeing things then determines how I'm feeling and how I'm being in the world. And that is what then creates what comes next for me. So I know it's pretty esoteric, but this has been my experience in life. And, you know, it's my hope for anybody that's on the human journey at all, is that they can like figure this stuff out too, you know?
Right. And it's not, it's not always black and white, and you do have to have a little faith. I mean, I am not a religious woman, but, you do have to have a little bit of faith in yourself. Mm-hmm. And in, the fact that things, will work out the way that they're supposed to.
Totally.
I'm just a firm believer in that, we are where we're supposed to be, and everything happens, for a reason. This is like an hour's gone by already, which I can't believe. I know, it's like nuts, because we could talk like forever. We do our little, voice message thingies, yes. And, so I asked this to everybody, this is like the last question, and it's, what truly lights your fire?
Oh, my kid. Oh my gosh. She is the coolest. I mean, really, like, this child is just the sweetest, most fun, energetic, loving, vibrant. I mean, I know everybody says this about their children, that like, oh, my kid is amazing, my kid's the coolest, but my kid really is the coolest. And people tell me all the time, they meet her and they're like, she's so awesome. She's like so kind and so loving and such a helper and such a fiery, feisty Leo, and like has so much passion in her. And she is like, she gets it. She notices everything and she's so tuned in. And so she just, oh my God, just every moment that I get to spend with her is like, she is the reason that I have this business, and that I do it the way that I do it, and that I work so hard to be the woman that I am, so that I can show up as the model of what is possible when you are a strong, powerful, successful woman by whatever standard you set for that, and present and kind and loving. Like, she is why I show up every day as me as I can possibly be. And I just adore her. She's the best.
Well, I love that. And I hope I get to meet her. Well, and you one of these days. We'll have to figure something out.
I know.
But what I love about that is every time I ask somebody that, they talk about their business. And it's always something business related.
Yeah.
And I love so much that you said that, because, I mean, of course she's going to be great. She's your daughter. I mean, I just, that to me, that's like a no-brainer, right? Having you as a mom must be like a trip, because, you're just so straightforward, and I'm sure you don't talk to her like she's a kid. I'm sure you talk to her like she's a human being, and, and I could just see it in my head.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Oh, yeah. You just, I'm telling you, there's just something about you that is, I'm drawn to you. I feel very grateful that you're in my life. Because I think we're going to be, friends like forever. We're going to talk about all the things and do all the things and, whatever.
Totally. I feel the same way. I feel so lucky that LinkedIn created the potentiality for us to very randomly find one another. It's so good.
It was like, I saw you talk and I was like, shit, I need to talk to her.
Yeah.
And I think it was a Dames thing, actually.
Totally was.
Yeah.
Yes. It was.
I thought it was Nina, but it wasn't. It was a Dames thing. And the Dames is this group that we're in. And it's this like fantastic networking group, but it's not a networking, take my card, selling shit. It's actually, raising each other up, in love and, guiding each other. And, I love it. I just feel so,
the women in that community are just amazing.
It is.
The values that Megan has infused, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah. Megan's just everybody. I mean, Megan's the founder, and, but yeah, there was a benefit last night for this woman, Ella. Yep. I bought the tickets, I watched it, my wife was like, what are you doing in there singing? And I'm like, oh my God, she's like amazing. And I
didn't get to watch it. I bought tickets because I love Ella.
You have to see the replay.
I will. Yeah.
But it is all about community.
Totally.
And I can't, we're like at 1 hour and 6. So, but I could talk to you forever. Thank you so much for joining me and taking, the time, because I know, your time is super, super special. So I
My
really
pleasure. I love getting to talk to you. I'm thrilled to provide some value, I hope, to your audience, and I'm so honored that you would want me to be a part of this. I'm so happy to be here.
How could I not? I mean, that's, to me, it's a no-brainer. So
Thank you.
thank you. So everybody, I want to thank you once again for hanging in there with us for an hour. They just seem to go by so fast. If you're sitting there watching the video, thank you. And if you're, just listening, doing your stuff, thank you as well. And I'm going to sign off, Iris Goldfeder. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. Bye, everyone.